Okay, so that's the ACC. We're also talking about Notre Dame in this episode. So Marcus Freeman obviously returns for a second season, 9-4 a year ago, and kind of a weird up and down year. Maybe down and up would be a better way to say it. Like having those two early losses to Ohio State, but then the two bad ones were Marshall and Stanford. And you could argue pretty strongly that the Stanford one was even worse than the Marshall one.
Yeah.
Um, their win total this year is set at 8.5 or 9, depending where you look. They bring in Sam Hartman to be the quarterback. Tommy Reese is gone, went to Alabama, so they promoted Jared Parker, who was the tight ends coach a year ago. Has a little bit of experience coordinating offenses, but not a lot. I do think that regardless of who the offense coordinator was this year, like we're going to see Notre Dame's offense be better this year, just almost automatically because you go from Drew Pine to Sam Hartman, things will get better. What are your thoughts? Kind of as obviously I'm a Notre Dame fan. You see it on the wall behind me, but
Yeah.
you're sort of the neutral guy here. Like, what do you think about this Notre Dame team going into 2023?
The the blue chip ratio, which just came out a couple of weeks ago, Notre Dame is climbing. Like the last couple of years, I think Notre Dame it's surprising actually how high up they are. They have
65%.
65%, which is really good. Like you're competitive with the Texas, Oklahoma, like even like the Florida, like who you're ahead of. You're ahead of Florida. No, I think he's done a good job. Freeman has of recruiting. That said, the offensive coordinator hire was frustrating. Like, right? It's not the guy they
Sure.
wanted. Parker was not the guy. It's Gerard Parker, right? Am I pronouncing that
I've
correctly?
heard Gerard. I've heard Jared.
Okay.
Pick one.
He
Yeah.
he was clearly not the one they wanted. Like that was we all know it. That was clearly not their favorite option. They had to promote from within because apparently they couldn't afford to get Utah's OC, which was surprising to all of us. That's concerning, I think. But that said, Notre Dame has a lot of talent. They do. Hartman coming in, that matters. Like the schedule's tough because Notre Dame always has a really tough schedule. Like USC's good, Ohio State, you catch Ohio State in non-conference. Clemson, I guess, yeah, Notre Dame doesn't have a conference. What am I saying? But like you get Clemson, Ohio State, USC. That's tough. That can go up against anyone's, top three opponents. Like that schedule can go up against anybody's. 8.5 feels low given how much talent. But then you look at the schedule and it's like this is legitimate. Like they have to win. They have to win all the rest of their games. If they lose some, the games that they're not going to be favored in. So I like them to go over. I think they win 9. I think they go 9-3. I think that you can lose those games and still go 9-3. I think if you win everyone else, win against everyone else, and I think they will. So no, I like Notre Dame. I like the direction that they're headed. It starts with recruiting, right? You're bringing in the right guys. I would feel a whole lot better had you gotten an offensive coordinator that you liked, though. Then I would feel so much better about, I think maybe just like the overall program.
Sure. I know it's just a spring game. I was very encouraged by the spring game. They were throwing the ball downfield. Hartman was already connecting with guys, including a true freshman receiver who's, I don't know, going to be the number 5 or 6 receiver on the roster in Jaden
Right.
Greathouse. Like he had like 11 catches in the spring game just because Hartman was dealing. And I think we're going to see a lot of that this year. It's kind of weird. For the first time in years, I actually trust Notre Dame's offense more than their defense going into the season. Um, I I am a little bit worried about the defense. Al Golden is the defensive coordinator. Did an okay job last year, I guess. They struggled in the red zone getting stops. They have good players everywhere in their defense. Benjamin Morrison, who was a freshman a year ago, had like 6 interceptions, I want to say, like including a couple against Clemson. He's a star in the
Mm-hmm.
making. I don't know that they have a ton of other stars. Like they have a bunch of other really solid defensive players. Um,
Right.
I do think the strength of the team will be the offense. Their offensive line is supposed to be very good. They have the best tackle tandem in the country, I believe. Returning Joe Alt is supposed to be a first round pick, and Blake Fisher has that kind of potential. I think that the running game will be a strength. The passing game will also be very good if they can get a little bit of production from their receivers. And I think I'm saying think a lot. I guess I have a lot of thoughts about my team. um, they have a lot of talent at receiver. Most of it is unproven. You almost can't overstate the difference between Drew Pine and Sam Hartman. It's just
Yeah.
going to be night and day, I believe. Like Drew Pine was just not good. They crushed Clemson last year with fewer than 100 passing yards.
Yeah.
I mean,
true.
if you're looking at their schedule, like you said, they have to go to Clemson. They get USC and Ohio State at home. That's probably the way you want it because they did clearly outperform Clemson at home last year. And so you'd like to think that they could maybe win that game on the road. And it's nice to have USC and Ohio State at home. Those are all three very losable games, but there's none of those games. There's no game on their schedule that they absolutely can't win. And part of it is just because Sam Hartman. Like that to me raises the win total by 1 or 2 at least, if not more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm also taking over for this team. 8.5 feels. I understand the line. It feels a little low to me. I don't think they're going 0-3 against the top of their schedule, and I expect them to do better against kind of the teams they're supposed to beat. Now, I will say, NC State, Louisville, Pitt, Wake Forest, like there's a non-zero chance one of those middle of the road ACC teams who's good on a good day, like there's a non-zero chance one of those teams wins. Did I mention Duke? I'm not sure, but like it's actually fairly reasonable kind of in the middle of the schedule if Notre Dame is going to be a top 25 team as opposed to a top 10 team. Like
Sure.
they'll lose a couple of those if they're, or theoretically, if they're just a top 25 team. If they're as good as I think they will be, I think they win all those games and then probably go 1-2 against the big three.
I think they bounce back as well. Like I think there's going to be more consistency when you have a guy like Hartman.
Mm-hmm.
There's not, like you're not going to be losing to Marshall with Hartman there. Isn't it kind of telling? Like it makes the Alabama offense feel so much worse when we say this out loud because it's all true. Like I sat there and watched the Marshall game. I know you did. I watched bits of the Stanford game as much as I could stomach before I had to turn it off. Like, and then those are the guys that's playing for Alabama now. Where Hartman is clearly an upgrade. Like there's no doubt there. You'd love some just like the continuity. I think would be like not just the continuity, the confidence and the experience. He has an ACC record currently for passing touchdowns. Like that matters. Like the guy is going to be really good. So I agree. I think it's interesting. They'll have a lot of fun games. One thing that we can talk about is like they'll have some really good games. Do you know the line any idea on the line for the Ohio State game right now? What is that about? What was that 7.5 last time I looked?
I want to say that's about. I haven't checked it in a while, but that sounds about right. That feels a little high, honestly. Like it's in South Bend.
Yeah,
you trust Notre Dame's quarterback over Ohio State of what we know at this point.
Currently, yes, we would, no doubt.
I do. I'm one of these people that thinks that Ohio State can absolutely win the title this year. So I'm not saying Notre Dame. I'm not calling my shot here or anything.
Right.
But there's no game on the schedule that I feel terrible about. So
currently, I'm seeing 8.5 right now. Looking at 8.5 right now on FanDuel. Yeah, I know that feels frisky. Feels like taking Notre Dame right now would be a good choice at their place. Ohio State breaking in a new quarterback. Can Notre Dame fans get loud? Like, could we really have a home field advantage for once?
They can. When there's a big game, there's been times where they were actually very loud. It's not consistent. And really? I was at the Stanford game last year, and you could just feel the tense atmosphere. Like, you could just feel, like, as the game wore on, and like, okay, Stanford's still hanging around. Why aren't we putting them away? Like,
right.
Yeah, the fan base will turn on the team, or at least just kind of sit on their hands as opposed to making noise when things aren't going well. When it's a big game, they will show up and be loud for the most part. Okay. There have been games when they sold out, but Yeah.
That was a close game a year ago. Notre Dame, Ohio State was a close game a year ago at the Shoe.
Yeah.
With CJ Stroud, right? And that was Smith and Jigbo was actually healthy for that game. And I mean, that's the game that he got hurt in, right?
Yeah.
So he was healthy for part of it. But yeah, like that was something Notre Dame led for large chunks of the first half. Before what was it, like an 11-point game, I think, maybe that it finished.
Something like that. Yeah.
Ohio State did pull away and win, but yeah, close game, and I think definitely could be again.
By the way, every outlet out there is talking about how the weakness of the team is the wide receivers, and it is as far as the unproven. Yeah, they have a lot of unproven receivers, but Jaden Thomas, Deion Colsey, a couple Georgia boys who are talented. Tobias Merriweather might be the breakout star. Like they got names there, they got guys that I think will play well, and there's just enough bodies that I halfway trust their passing game to not only be a function of Sam Hartman, but I also think their receivers will make some plays. So
yeah, like that.